In this video, I'm going to show you how to invest in cryptocurrencies with no money, $0. But when I say $0, I actually mean zero cost. And that's an important distinction to make. So before I get into the actual nuts and bolts of it, I need to explain the whole process, and we need to have a conversation about what it is I'm trying to actually go about so you can understand it a little bit better. So to start things off, when it comes to zero cost or no money, in order to buy something, you still need some money. You need something. You need to be able to change it for something of value. No one's just going to give it to you for free. Otherwise, that would be, here's the video on how to get free airdrops and how to get free crypto. That's not what this is. But when we analyze the presumption that you need to purchase something, but at zero cost, we start to look at the concept of borrowing money and making more than this money costs us to borrow so that it pays for it, and everything above that is profit. Now that starts to get really exciting. So let's jump over to the blackboard so I can explain a little bit further. I'm gonna stare at this white blackboard for a second and I'm gonna talk to you about what I'm actually doing. So the first thing we're doing is we are working with credit cards. Now, there is a lot to unpack with the credit cards, but especially here in the US, we actually have limits on how we can purchase cryptocurrencies with our credit cards. And a lot of people don't realize this, and you can go search it right now. They're all full of crap. All the people out there who are talking about cryptocurrencies and purchasing with a credit card, it's not in this country, one, or it is in this country, but what they don't explain to you is that the credit card is actually basing it on a cash advance, which is a higher interest rate than your normal interest rate for your credit card. You see, when you have your credit card, and it's got all the little numbers on it, right? And I love that I had to draw this for you. You have two versions of interest rate. So you have the purchases interest rate, and this will be, anywhere these days, it's pretty high, but let's say, I still have some that are there. Let's say it's anywhere between 15 and, 21%, okay? So this is the number that most of us are concerned about. This is what we usually understand when it comes to purchasing things. We have a percentage and we go, but we pay it off before the month. But if we do incur it, we know that we have a percentage. And this is the cost to borrow that money. That there's also called a cash advance. And what this is it's kind of hard to understand because it seems stupid, but what it is that they will essentially give you physical cash or the equivalent of cash instead of you purchasing that thing. So they'll deposit the money into your bank account. And therefore you'll have the cash and you can spend it on whatever you want in any form. You could pull it out and pay a cleaning lady. You could do something for your business, and they don't care. It has nothing to do with them. But there are two caveats to this. Cash advance is always higher percentage than purchase. Always higher than percentage than purchase. And we're talking like 25+%, usually, and maybe even more depending on the credit card. So first off, this 21%, if you're doing okay, this isn't going to be, and obviously your credit is going to be dependent on these factors. But it's going to be a higher percentage, maybe even 26 is where this sits. And that's where the one I'm actually thinking I'm using is going to be in that boat. Now 26%, and it will actually be, maybe 25% of total credit limit. It's not necessarily 25%, but it's a fraction of what your total limit is. So if you had a $10,000 credit card, you wouldn't be able to get a $10,000 cash advance. You'll only get a $3,000 or $4,000. I mean, obviously if it's 25%, 4,000, 5,000 respectively. But you can't get the full amount. So that is another thing to consider. So what I started to do some research when it came to this, and what this caused me to start to realize was that there is, first off, I want to be able to use the maximum amount on a credit card. So let's say if this worked, I could really do it very well. I wanted to use the maximum amount on a credit card. So first off, I want to use the purchase amount. So it's also a lower percentage to borrow, right? So I was thinking about lower percentage, like, okay, well, if it's only costing me 15% to borrow the money, and then I use a protocol like Anchor, where I can get 20% on the Terra network, well, then I'm still making 5%. It's free, right? I do have to calculate in taxes, but it's free. It's free money. This got me diving a little bit deeper. And as I was churning around the idea about using a credit card, I was like, but wait a minute. There's zero intro APRs, or there are APR periods, zero APR periods sometimes that your credit card will actually give to you. And that is actually what I came across, and I actually have on one of my credit cards. So there's two ways you can go about this. You can apply for a new credit card, and quite often some of them will have an actual 0% APR, which means you don't pay anything for X amount of time. So this will only work for that period of time where you get 0. And obviously they'll jump you up to the new rate once it goes past those 12 months or 18 months. And that's usually what an intro period will be. It's anywhere from 12 to usually 18 months would be the max I'd see a 0% intro APR. So you can do that with getting a new one. And hopefully if it's a new one, they'll give you a decent credit card limit depending on your credit score. Or if you already have a set of credit cards that have built you up some credit and they have some decent limits on them, they're usually trying to promote you to bring other credit bills over to those cards. And so what they'll do is they'll offer you transfer balances on exactly that. Transfer balances from another credit card, from another bank, it has to be from another bank, to your new bank. Okay, so let's jump over here and let's start with this again so I can explain this a little bit more. So I have a credit card right here. And it has an intro APR. It will allow me to do 0 APR as long as I do it by a certain date. By X date. I can get that 0 APR for 12 months. And once I can have it for 12 months on transfer balances. So that means I have another credit card over here with a different bank. Let's call this bank Y and let's call this bank X. And if I transfer this way, that is a horrible, horrible X. Why is it curved, first off? If I transfer this way, right? And so then I transfer over here, it has to be from a different bank, and they will give me this 0 APR for 12 months. There is always going to be some fine print on that, so make sure you read it. But there is also a fee. Oops, and I started to draw the 3 because currently on mine, it is a 3% fee, transfer fee. So whatever the balance is, whatever this sum is, it's gonna have a 3% fee on top of it. So you need to remember that, and we're gonna go jump over a spreadsheet in a minute and have a look. But you have to remember that 3% fee. So if you take let's just use for nice numbers, $10,000, and I wanted to do this method, I have a $10,000 transfer. I'm going to transfer it over here. There's going to be on this new credit card, I have $10,000 plus the 3% of it, which being $300, right? Plus the fee. Here's the fee. And now, so I have to pay back $10,300. So we already have a cost to this. There's going to be a cost associated with this right off the bat. But I'm now like, well, but then this whole thing is still at 0%. It doesn't cost anything to actually have this. So the minute you make that purchase over here, as long as this happens in a 30-day window, as long as I make this purchase and do the transfer off, I don't get charged anything. There's no charge off of this credit card. And so now this credit card has it, and it's going to give me 0% on this. Anything else I purchase on this card while I'm doing it, it will be normal purchases and will have its own balance. But as long as this is the only thing I'm doing on this card, it's gonna be 0. There is a second caveat to it, another little asterisk down here. You need to make minimum payments. Those usually, and I actually called my bank, but you have to make sure to check with your bank, it's usually 1 to 2%. Now, that is of the total amount, and you have to do the simple interest version of it over the whole 12 months. So you would divide this whole thing, and I have a sheet on it. You divide the whole thing into what would be the amount you need to pay monthly. And actually what it does, it's actually, I don't think it's simple interest because it ends up chunking away at the principal. So if you owed $10,300 and your first payment was $150, it would now only be 1% of the 10,100 or $200 or 150, whatever the minus is. So it goes down the amount of your monthly payment. So that will gradually go down. But you need to be able to cover this while this process is happening. So there are a few bits to it, right? And it gets very complicated very quickly. But I had to get that kind of crazy stuff out of the way, because then you go, well, what about purchasing your crypto over here? Okay, so here's the second part to buying crypto with a credit card. When I was saying in the US, the people who are doing it is they're kind of full of shit. If you go to use the most simple method that probably people will explain to you would be crypto.com, where you could purchase on a credit card. And if there is somewhere that you can buy this right now without doing this whole method, tell me right away in the comments. I want to know right away. If I'm full of shit and this is so crazy, go tell me right away. But if the only place I have come across after I vetted this for quite a while, I looked at this for quite a while, was crypto.com. And so there's a couple of things to note with this. Okay? There's going to be a fee for purchasing. And that's going to be 3 to 3.5%. And I think it's actually, I scratched that. I do remember it right now. It's 2.99% cryptocurrency fee. That's their fee to make purchases. Okay, so you have to make a purchase with, and it's going to charge you that, unless it's a new account, of which they have a $0 fee. And so that whole thing can be scratched out if it's a new account. I currently have that, where if you haven't used that feature yet, it will still be on a 30-day cooldown. So you'll actually charge $0. So cool, we've gotten rid of that. But what most people don't tell you is that the US banking system does not want people buying on credit. They do not want you to buy your cryptocurrencies on credit. And what will happen when you try to use a purchase on, say, any credit card through crypto.com is you will immediately have it canceled. It will immediately say declined, and the only answer you can come up to is calling the bank and finding out how they're canceling it and why they're canceling it. And in some cases, what I found on the internet is that some people were able to request that it be a cash advance. So we go back to the cash advance. So immediately, which I've now wiped off completely. But if we remember, the cash advance is the equivalent of 25, 26%, right? So we're at 25, 26%, and I'm talking about using, say, the Anchor protocol, which is a really good one. It's only giving out 20%. So you could play that riskier method on a cash advance on something, say, in getting a a liquidity pool. Maybe it's got 100% returns. Sure, if you want to do that. But I'm talking about something that's really safe that you can invest in to where you're going to guarantee your money coming back to you. So, what do you end up doing? What I'm talking about is borrowing money at $0 with a little bit of a cost associated with it between the fee, going and sitting it somewhere in a stable coin where it doesn't deplete, because you have to pay it back, right? You have to pay that amount back. So you're not taking the risk on of an asset that can go up and down, or a liquidity pool that can lose value as we go into a crypto crash right now. Make it a stable coin and invest without losing any money and only gaining money. How do you do that? So I really wish I hadn't got rid of my screen before. You go back to the bank transfer. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be purchasing on bank account 1, and I'm going to be transferring over to this credit card over here. I'm going to calculate in the transfer fee, and I'm going to calculate in how much I actually need to pay them back. But I'm essentially going to be like, how can I get that to go to there? And if I can't purchase it directly through an exchange, well, then what do I use to purchase to get that to happen? I need to be able to convert it. So I have to buy something with this credit card, and I have to convert it to something and then sell it to get it to something else. So this is the real magic. This is where all the magic comes from. This is $2,000 worth of gold. This is what makes this possible. And to be honest, I was thinking about different ways of going about things to purchase and what I could sell and maintain the highest amount of value. So purchasing it for $100 and being able to sell it for as close as I can to $100 and then transferring that into crypto. Gold is what I ended up on. it's actually kind of sad, right? Look at the size of it. I thought it was going to be bigger. This is $2,000 worth of gold. I mean, honestly, like, and it's that thin, right? You can see right through it. And it's this big. On the image, it looked this big. Look, banana for scale, right? Isn't that kind of sad? That's really underwhelming. Anyway, it is worth $2,000. And between this and perhaps say buying like an Apple product, perhaps an Apple iPhone, I was considering what's going to keep the highest amount of value and give me the biggest return on it. And sure, you could look at selling iPhones, maybe finding some unlocked ones and selling them on eBay or something, and perhaps even make more money. But then you're talking about another business, which if you could do that, then you might as well just be doing that. But gold is one of the craziest things close to it that I could probably purchase for $100 and sell for the closest thing I could sell for close to $100. Now there's going to be a percentage drop in it, and we're going to go over that in a minute, but that's why I bought this, was to buy it and actually experiment with this process. I purchased this on a credit card. A lot of people don't know that you can buy gold or precious metals on a credit card. And this is where another part of the exciting part comes in, is that a lot of purchases, if they're going to be crypto or investments, they will require that cash advance. But gold only requires you to purchase it as a standard purchase. So I get the low interest rate, not that it matters because I'm going to 0 APR, but I can use the full amount on my credit card, which is my important part, because having a balance of say $1,000 versus $20,000, if this works, I would rather do it with $20,000. That's when you make some real money. So let's actually jump over to the place I bought it. So here's ACMEX. This is the company I bought the gold from. And I got this suggestion actually from my father, who had bought it before. And I said, have you bought gold before? You bought it online? Yep. Bought it with credit card. Was it anything weird at your bank? No, just buy it. So ACMEX, you basically just go to gold and go by weight. And I kind of knew that I was looking at grams, 1 ounce, and I started to look at prices, and I came across that about $2,000. Where is the 1 ounce? Oh, interesting. There, 1 ounce gold bars. I came across that 1 ounce was about a place that I could spend happily, but I was doing math on a larger sum. And so looking at this, I went, okay, it's about $2,000, and I came across to one of the cheapest ones I could purchase it for. Now, unfortunately, this has actually gone down. Oh, but this isn't the credit card price. So a couple things to note with this is that the credit card price is going to be more. And they bake in, the same as Crypto.com was going to do, they bake in their 3-4% credit card fee. They bake in that fee. That fee is going to actually give you, the Visa or whoever wants to charge you that fee. So you're going to have to eat that no matter what. So it's something to consider, but you start doing the math and it actually can kind of work out. But you get the number, and I bought it purchase less, and it's actually gone up, which is great. So I bought it for less than what is stated right here, right now. Okay. I bought it for 1956 or 1969 or something like that. And the spot price, what I'm going to sell it for, has gone up. But the other part to note is that they have to make their own profit, right? They're going to make profit on it. So the other thing to keep an eye on is the spot price up here on gold. And this is currently what they're selling it for. So we look at that, the discrepancy between this. So I would have purchased that for what the credit card say. What did it say? $2,100. And here's the sell price, $1,850. So there's a bit there. So you do realize this is going to cost something, but out of everything I could think of, this was probably the easiest one that ended up, after I did all the numbers and the percentages taken out, it was like, this is the thing that's going to lose me the least amount of money. So am I going to keep 90% of my value? Yes. And if I can keep 90% of my value, can I make up the other 10% with the free money, with the money I'd be investing into, like, say, a protocol like Anchor or, anywhere else where I can get 20%. So let's jump on over to the maths of it. Here is what I actually did. This is verbatim, this gold bar sitting here. So a 1 ounce gold bar, at the time I purchased it, this is what the purchase amount was for. And I wrote it down, I did all the math, and I actually have a second sheet down here which goes into a crazy amount when I was hypothetically thinking about 15,000. I was like, what could I do with 15,000? Pick a number in there, and this gets kind of wild pretty quick. But let's look at the small version. So this is what I purchased it for. I actually divided it by how many grams are in an ounce. It's a special type of ounce. I don't even remember what the type of grams is. It's dumb. It's not the normal one. It's not 28. Just keep that in mind. When you're buying gold, it's not 28 ounces per gram, it's 31.1. It's called a special type of, it's like a Roman, or there's like some Greek term for it. So it ends up being 63.33. You need to know this if you're buying multiple smaller slices of it. But so this math was all based on this bigger sheet where I was trying to figure out what I should buy. This is gonna be the spot price, and this is what it is today. This is what I was speculating it before, and it was actually very close to this, 1850. And we can see that it's kind of had a little bit of fluctuation. I purchased it somewhere down here. It was 1810, I think it was 1805. It was somewhere in here is when I purchased it. Yeah, I purchased it in December. So it's gone up, which is great for me, and the math still kind of makes sense. So let's say the spot is now 850, 1850 what I sold, and there's going to also be a fee with shipping this back. So when I purchase that much worth of gold, they give it to me for free. So this is my only cost associated with buying it. But selling it back to them, I have to sell it to them. So I could go to a gold store down the road, but I'm just gonna ship it back to them because I know that they know exactly what this is. They sold me this. This is the Volcambi Suisse, right? It's that one. It was the lowest one they had. I talked to a lady, very lovely. The customer service is great. They're obviously a high ticket item. So there is a shipping cost. So it cost, this is the total cost that I had from purchasing, that I will have from purchasing and exchanging. So I'm gonna calculate both of those. So this is this number, the total I paid for it plus shipping in it. And they gave an example for $49 to ship back 5 ounces. So I just said 20, and it has to be insured. Obviously you want to insure it when you're sending this back to them. And they even said, it's kind of sneaky, they actually even said, when you send it back, don't tell them what's in there. You just insure it and just send it. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. So that's what it ended up costing me or once I sell this back, which I haven't done yet, but this is what's going to cost when I sell it back. So once I sell this back, that will be how much it will have cost. Then there will be, on this, I did what's 3% of that amount, of my total amount. So if this is on my credit card, let's say there's zero balance, and this is on my credit card, how much is this gonna cost me to transfer it off? So what's all this gonna cost me to get it over to the zero APR side, over to a credit card with zero APR. So I'm using one card and then I'm transferring it to zero APR. It's gonna cost me that. So this total combined, total cost to buy, sell, and card transfer is about $2,050. That's what this puppy is gonna be worth to me. But I only sold it for $1,850. So we're assuming that I made the shipping transfer and boom, sold it for $1,850. There's my loss. So I've calculated my loss. That's taking this out of that one. And you can see the formula up there. That's my total loss. So that's $200. So you ask yourself, okay, so that's $200. But then, so this is costing money. How is this free? Well, it's free if you can make more in the time period than it cost you. Now, $200 is quite a bit to come off of with 2,000. And when you actually do the math on it, so I divided it by it, and it's actually 10%. So it's 10% of its value, right? So how much can I make off of that is I lost 10% of my value. So I maintained about 90% of my overall value up here, or the whole thing that it's cost. So I maintained about 90% of everything. So the last formula I actually didn't put in here, which is going to be if I have, let's say, this amount. So now I have this to play with in cash. So this is in my bank. Let's copy this. So this is cash to invest. Why is it not? All right, let's just type it in then because it's not being nice. It's $1,850. Let's say I'm getting an interest rate. Wow, that's a special, I got this little pad thing here, and rate, let's say it's, let's copy this one. I was hoping it would keep the percentage, 20%. Oh, there it did, cool. So 20%, so now equals this, yep, wants to do the whole thing, but I'm gonna go through it. This times 20% is $370. So off of $1,850, I could make $370. It cost me $200 to make this whole transaction go. So I made $170. So this equals this minus this. So now I have made, in 12 months, I will make $170 off of this. $1,850, this, I'll sell this, turn it into crypto, turn it into UST, put it on the Anchor protocol for 20%. So there's a couple of things you need to think about. How long will 20% last on the protocol? That I'm not going to get into as an experiment, as it would be following 20% around. There's going to be more, in my opinion, and it will be something to chase. This will probably only work if you can get a regular amount over 20%. And I actually have a breakdown below on the other sheet that shows what other percentages would do if you were getting 30% or 40% or 50%, hypotheticals, so you can get excited and try and potentially chase those, being careful again about liquidity pools and not losing your money. But in 12 months, I'll make 170 bucks. The last part that you need to think about, which is making it sadder every second, is taxes. So assuming you're gonna go about this the proper way you should be, so I'm gonna say I'm in a 22% tax bracket. I wouldn't necessarily think that's everybody's, but that's probably the, a very low percent, so be it. And that's what I'm gonna be making. If you're a lower percent, you would change that to what it is. But I'm gonna be timing this by the inverse of my tax bracket so that I'm left with the final amount. So this will be, let's go down here. Let's do final. Final amount gained. Okay, this equals this times this. So I made $133 in 12 months off of this method. So all this effort is worth $133 in 1 year. And when you put it that way, it's actually kind of sad. But again, why I was looking at hypotheticals of, say, doing it with $15,000 is where things start to get more interesting. But if we do one more thing here, monthly income, this divided by 12, I make 11 bucks a month, okay? So what I like to do is I like to break it down to the smallest denominator of $11 or whatever it is a month so that I can be excited about it and I can think, hey, $11 a month for myself is paying for my Spotify and I don't have to worry about it. Did I do a bunch of things and have to deal with it? Yes. But that's a little bit of passive income I don't have to work for that is now in my account that I don't have to worry about. You can't spend any of this before the end of the year. So you need to leave it in there so it compounds, gains the whole 20%. And then at the end of the year, you pull it out to pay taxes and pay off that credit card. So you need to keep that full sum in there all 12 months. And so it's locked up. If you take 2,000, you've locked it in there for 20%. I didn't have this money before. Okay, this is the really important part that you need to understand. I did not have this money before because that will be purchased on a credit card, put over, transferred over. I don't know why I keep picking up the gold. It's so fidgety, it's so small and cute. And transferred over to a credit card. I never had it, and so all the effort would be for stuff I never had to gain. I still have my money I invest with that I can pull out and keep liquid and do whatever I want with, but this money never existed. So that's why you go big or go home. And I started looking at like, what would 15K do? It was 10, and then I went to 15K and I started looking at playing with larger sums. And I started dividing, so they didn't have 50 gram bars at the time, but I did look at the price of them. They were about $31.50 at the time when I was looking. And so I ended up doing the calculation. I would need to, if I wanted to get 15,000 worth, this is divisible by this number. So I would have to buy 7.6 of them to get 15,000 of them. So by the end of it, what I came across was, if I could buy the 50 gram bars, which were coming available soon, so if I was to could go ahead and do this for 15K and try and get there, is I would have to buy 4 50 gram bars. This 31.1 is a gram, is an ounce. It's the same as those ounces. And again, I can't remember the name. So I'd get 1 ounce, and then I'd get 2 of these 2.5 ounces. And actually, it's kind of a bummer. You can see that the 2.5 ounces per gram are actually more expensive. But I couldn't get another month to max. I wanted to max out the 15K. So I just went to what's the closest I could get to max. So the total cost would be this, right? 14,921. So that's as close as I could get without going over or under. So from here, I then have to realize how much at the time. So this is what it was at the time. So it was $18.25. So that spot was there. I assumed doubling the amount of shipping they had suggested on their website for 50 bucks, for 40, 50 bucks, and I put $80 to making a guess. All my expenses, we're gonna minus all the expenses, so $13,779, which was gonna be how much I would end up selling it for, plus this, then I would have to take off. Then I would have to take off the extra 3%, which 3% of the whole thing would be this amount, it's by E18 and F13. So F13, so this amount. Yeah, so the total amount I spent, that's what I'm transferring. I ended up having a loss of $15.90. So once I have that loss, I took that and then I started to plug in like how much I could make back. So I took this number, this is the amount of cash I have, right? 13,779, and I started to see what staking it would do, right? And this is the raw number, straight up at 20% a year. So at 13,000, you'd walk away with about 1,100 bucks. And then you times it by your tax bracket, and then you divide that by 365 to get your daily amount, or 12 months to get your monthly amount. So if I were to do this with a 15,000 amount at 20%, which is a conservative one that I could probably get, you know, that even if say Anchor is to diminish and not be available, and there'd be another 20%, another protocol would, you know, hopefully I could get it. Let's just say this is the easiest one I could probably find. 75 bucks a month. So that's 75 bucks a month that you would be getting as your income that you need to have. That said, you also need to end up covering your $15.90, right? So that's going to be in there. But this starts to give you a really exciting look at what you can do with more percentages. So if you could get a higher percentage, you could start to look at what higher percentages would do. It's a very interesting thing to think about if I did it with one and it's the same sort of thing. So this actually factored in the minuses. So this is getting close to what I was talking about. This is like the 8 to 11 bucks a month that you would get from doing it on just one 1 ounce bar, right? This 1751 is minus the losses. So if I did this one bar, I did this whole thing before with a 1960 and 1825. So I'd get down to that as my final sort of cash that I'd have left over. And I'd have that a month that I get to play with. So what's really exciting about this is, again, it's about money you didn't have. You didn't have this money before, and now you have it. And I know this is so complicated and long and super crazy, but I wanted to explore it. So again, I got the one, I brought my banana along for scale, and I'm gonna actually go through with it and see what happens, but I'm very curious to see if this is something that I could scale to a larger amount, and then potentially, instead of doing the whole transfer fee and reduce that 3%, go straight to a credit card that has a zero intro, right? If you're in that position and you can go get a credit card, you can go straight to a 0% intro APR and do this from scratch. So just buy gold, factor in the loss. There's gonna be a loss, calculate that out, figure out how much that is, transfer it over, make sure you can pay the monthly amount, and then have it gaining interest over here. And if you wanna go real crazy, this is not what I would suggest doing, but if you wanted to, you could put it into a moonshot and wait to see if that thing goes up in a few months. If you're coming up to a bull rally, it's, you know, it's a scary thought to think what you could do with free money. Or you could lose it all and have credit card debt for the rest of your life. So this isn't for the faint of heart. And this is why I say doing it in a stable way, using like a stable coin and doing that interest is probably the best bet for all of us. If you stick to something simple like that and kind of count your bets on the free money, you may not make anywhere near as much as a moonshot if you use free money, but you will still have the opportunity to make money you wouldn't have had otherwise. So I hope that this was not too crazy, but something that you could take and think about and at least get the mind spurring a little bit about how to actually buy cryptocurrencies with zero money, with no money. Because by the end of the cost, there's upfront cost, but on your credit card and over the end of it, there's zero cost. So it would cost you no money to make money in crypto, right? That's the dream. And this is really what wealthy people do. Wealthy people do this all the time. If you can borrow money and make money, more money than it costs you to borrow, you're doing what the 1% do anyway. We just don't have access to the same traditional financing options they may have, where they can get a HELOC for 3% or they can get some crazy percentage on $10 million. We're not available to that. We have to play with credit cards. But the fact that I can game the system is the most exciting part. So if you found any use in this or just thought it was interesting to watch a crazy man talk on screen for a few minutes, you know what to do. Subscribe. I got more craziness coming. I'll actually tell you what's going to happen with this whole thing and how it pans out. That might be a long investment, but subscribe, hit the like. It does help the channel grow if there is any value you found out of this. And wow, guys, it's like almost 40 minutes. It's a long one. I'll see you in the next one.